accomplish, and we could do it with fidelity, honor the terms of the contract. The proposal that came from PEA previously didn't provide any time for that implementation that I believe is necessary for the scheduling revisions or otherwise. And so it's remained that topic of discussion. We've communicated from the start that lunch was something that we could work, but we tend to agree that we could be term contract in an intense situation of non-compliance. We've shared previously that there's data that shows that our schools are at an average of 24 minutes per period, but some of the schools are limited by physical space. We've been through this before, and it presents a legitimate case for review on our part. So the proposal that is presented to you this evening provides for a phased approach that allows schools to plan accordingly through their master schedule and the physical capacities at the cafeteria to provide a 30-minute lunch for staff and students. And I'm offering you to look at the proposal for Teacher Article 6.2 and 6.2-1. That is a formal counter to PEA's proposal that you presented to us June 26, 24. And it is only for those articles. And I say that because if you go down through the myriad of changes, actually we struck 6.3-10. So that's why that's not in there.
Yep.
It's a matter of detail, but I want to keep it there. So if I may, let's take a moment and walk through exactly what that says. It's very straightforward, I believe, for discussion with your team. And I'll start with Article 7. And we struck the language equivalent out of a student. The underlying language is new that states of at least 30 consecutive minutes, excluding any transition time where a teacher is supervising students. Again, I think that was your language. The underlying language in establishing at least 30 consecutive minutes, excluding any transition time, teacher is supervising students. School year 2025-26 will be a planning year with implementation school year 26-27. What that does allows us time to address our schools, address our schedules, and some of our facilities needs we have. 6.1 is language, again, strikes the of the student and adds of at least 30 consecutive minutes, excluding any transition where a teacher is supervising students. And then new language in establishing at least 30 consecutive minutes, excluding any transition time where a teacher supervising students. School year 25-26 will be planning year with implementation school year 26-27. So I believe that explains that. And I also put a tab on 310 because we've struck that, so it's not in discussion or there anymore. But I wanted the record to reflect from the previous proposals that we're working out from there. So we can leave that for your review and consideration. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is planning time. And with respect to planning time, I appreciate the document we shared earlier with respect to the MOUs where we're tracking that, because I'm aware that with the planning time, there was an MOU that has been circulating, and PEA has signed it, and I think we're waiting for staff on our side to sign it, that actually brings agreement with the language of, I can record the details of the MOU if you like, but it addresses the hurricane days. You want me to take a moment and read that?
So with the hurricane days, I'll take this one. We had been in discussions with management because we had 7 early dismissal days that were still out and about after the hurricane. And we only needed to make up the hurricane days. We really only need to take 6 of those 7. So what ended up happening is it was just lopped off, and then the May early dismissal day was the one that was there. And so that was what we had brought up and through an MOU that we wanted to address, moving that May 16th day to a full student day, because an early dismissal development day in the middle of May, in the middle of testing, crazy town. And so we have, I have signed an MOU, and we were bringing this up for discussion today to move that early dismissal day to March 14th at the end of the quarter as a teacher planning day, a teacher planning early dismissal day. Additionally, the week of May 12th through 16th, we would have had an early dismissal staff development. Admin cannot have a PLC during that week at all. So if you're on block schedule or regular straight 7, or however your schedule is designed in elementary, the teachers will get all of that planning time that week. Because they wouldn't have been able to take a PLC that week anyway, because it was early dismissal staff development. So that's the outline to finish out this year.
And that's an MOU that we're working on, that we will have agreement on. Joe, that
It's sent over to Mr.
so,
Hyde.
Yeah. So what I want to do next is I want to put this in the record with details of our bargaining and what proposals we're responding to. So PEA's proposal of November 4th, 2024 for para Article 8 and teacher Article 3 had a proposal that spoke to the requested changes for the 24-25 school year calendar. So the terms of the MOU address that 24-25 school year and immediate matters resulting from the hurricane days that hit communities and Polk. So further, that 11-4-24 para-educator proposal for Article 8 is rejected because we would then say
for this year, we settled it through the MOU.
They would do the MOU. So PEA's 11-4 proposal for teacher Article 3 and 6, I guess we put on the record then again as a rejection. We resolve that by way of the MOU that's in between parties. So by default, rejected Article 8, teacher Article 3 and 6. The district presents beyond the MOU a return to existing contract language for the articles as the formal counter.
So question on that, the MOU really only addresses this year. We were still looking to have more teacher self-directed plan time on early dismissal, which was what Article 3 outlined. So you're rejecting that.
That is correct. We'll go back to original ratified language. So, and that's why I wanted to unpack that clearly in that way. So we're clear on the MOUs addressing the hurricane days, and then beyond that, it would be the articles as I wrote it as follows. We would return to the existing contract language for those articles as the formal counter, which is exactly what you said.
So in Article 8, though, the paraeducator also has lunch in that article. Is it going to mirror? Just question, are you proposing to mirror?
On that one, I think we need to review to make sure we're following suit with whatever discussion that we may move forward with on the previous offer of the counter I made with the 30-minute phase. I mean, the 30-minute lunch with the phase in, that it does walk across for the para.
Okay.
Because that part connects, but with all respect to planning, I'm proposing as a counter that we go back to existing language. Is that clear? All right. All right, and the last piece because clearly that was a key, that was the leading piece last time we came together. And I put in my notes here directly from what it says, and it specifically states that Polk County School Board will put a traditional millage referendum on the next general election ballot in 2026, in which the revenue will not be shared with any other taxing authority. I could go on and read through the rest of it. I kind of want to just hit high points that we want to unpack that were concerns for us. Remember I said when we started, I said there were pieces that threw up a red flag for me right away. And I just want to hit those pieces. PEA will be a part of the committee or structure that crafts the ballot language, and the Polk County School Board will negotiate an MOU with PEA on how the millage revenue will be spent on PEA covered positions. I have looked at Hillsborough, and I've seen Hillsborough's MOUs, so I want to speak to that. And I've kind of tracked and studied a little bit of how that all came together. And I thought those MOUs were written really well. So, all right. So that being said, PEA will also have at least one voting seat on the millage oversight committee that would be created upon the successful passing of the millage referendum. I have a concern, and I'm going to ask Mr. Davis to give some more background with respect to legal. That some of these pieces, as we received them last time we were together, presented a challenge for us legally. So, Mr. Davis, you want to unpack that for us, please?
And I'm going to turn this around. I actually put down a memo that has some citations that I want you to have on the record. And first, I want to preface this by saying that you know, I admire the creativity. I know what you're trying to do here, but we had some concerns that this was outside of the scope of bargaining. And so I provided here some legal references and authorities as to what we're relying on. First of all, you know, pulling or approving a referendum The statutes give that authority to the school board, so we are not able to bargain that away. As you know, the scope of bargaining, pay rate, hours of work, conditions, compelling a board to put a tax referendum on a ballot is just not within that scope. I understand that, you know, there is a correlation between the revenue from that referendum but the statute allows for the referendum to be designated as either for operating expenses or for capital improvements. So that's a board decision they're going to make. We can't compel them to make it for operating expenses. Second, it may be, you know, they may do it for operating expenses, but we can't compel them to put that money aside for salaries. I did find a PERT ruling from 1981, Federation of Public Employees, Division of District 1, Pacific Coast District, MEBA versus Broward Sheriff's Department, where PERC has stated that the budget is not a matter falling within the ambit of the phrases wages, hours, or terms and conditions of employment. And this was where they were trying to negotiate over compelling the Sheriff's Department to a tentative budget they had not agreed to yet. Well, that would be the same situation here. So for those reasons, and you can read it more of my analysis in the memo, we do not believe that putting a referendum or this language here into an agreement, we just think that's outside of the scope of bargaining. I do want to say I've heard from members of the community that are very supportive of trying to get a referendum. So I think there's some appetite out there that it's still a possibility. I'm just saying that in this context of negotiating, we will not be able to negotiate on this topic.
So strategically, or to be clear with the record, I keep going back to the package, but that was part of the package. There is no counter to that because it was, I'll say, lost in the package, and I don't have a piece of that I'm bringing forward for the reasons that we've outlined here. So that's why there's no proposal back to you in that regard.
Okay.
So, and with that being said, I think outstanding that big bucket items that we had to talk about. I've given you some clear proposals. I've given some clear rejections. So I think with that being said, we're at a place where you take those counters or those proposals I've clearly put in the record, and I'll say the ball's in your court with respect to
directs district team to put me on the table, and yet 2 months later and no more money. We have a really hard time with that as our colleagues are leaving. And
I'm sorry, when did the board act? When was this? Are you referring to
board
conversations?
meeting happens.
Mhm.
They go in closed session. I don't know what happens in closed session.
Exactly.
Mr. Warren
specificity for a third calcs to come in. The third calcs have come in and they didn't come in. They didn't come in with respect to what we perhaps would have liked or anticipated. And that impacted the discussion. But with respect to anything else inside that executive session, that's privileged and confidential. But I can tell you that the delay was to provide time for us to wait, for us to review where we had been at bargaining before. You had at that time outlined that you believed that we could take some of the line items out of the materials and curriculum and instructional supplies that are specifically for textbooks for students, that are supplies for teachers, that we should use that phrases. We went line by line in the budget for you the last we were here. So we were still looking through those pieces and specifically wait for anything that might come in by way of third calc. And I think I can just say with definition, it didn't come in with third calc.
This district should change its motto to short-sightedness. Because
yes. For example, while we're on the topic of the millage, it's great that y'all are now going to do research on this. 4 years after the first time we brought it up, 6 months too late to go on this particular ballot. And now 2 years before we will see me run from it if y'all choose to move forward. So I'm glad. Mr. Davis, I truly.
Excuse me, that is a.
But-
Let her finish,
No.
let her finish her comments.
Wait,
That is short-sighted. It also might be short-sighted to think about the fact that we asked everybody to come here. These are your employees that you value so much, and you spent the first 25 minutes lecturing them. So when you're talking about valuable time, just so you know, we got off work and came here.
Okay.
So. Short-sighted.
I'm gonna, I don't want this to digress into a back and forth. So, but I do want to address the short-sighted remark that you made, Kat, because with all respect, the millage referendum piece is a piece, as Mr. Davis has explained, that rests squarely with the board. We weren't short-sighted. You guys, when you presented that as a bargainable item in the package on the 20th was when that became very forward, that we had to address that and speak to that regard. That's why you received what we wanted to present tonight in that respect. I told you as we started earlier that immediately that evening I had concerns, okay? Immediately. So this was just an opportunity to unpack some of those. So I think we're at a place where I'm sensing
We would like to
agreeing to
caucus.
disagree, so.
Before
We'll
we
go from there.
caucus, one last question and we'll have to caucus. So is it your opinion? Is it your position? This committee's position that offering teachers, clinicians, paraeducators, and secretaries up to 4% begins to solve the teacher and staffing crisis in this county?
I will answer that, but we're going to take it apart into pieces. The 4% that was provided to this group was enough to provide a 4% increase to people you represent to their salaries. That could have also, it's a bucket of money. We've discussed this, that we provide to you guys. You determine if you want to begin to make some of those priority steps toward the work on compression, or if you want to go in and do a flat 4% on all of them. You can work with that. You've got 3 groups that you can work across with different numbers of people in each of those groups. So you ask me, and I'll try to answer you directly. Is the 21 million money adequate? No, I wish it could be more,
So the answer
but
is
we
no.
don't have more.
So the answer is no.
But it is an amount that is within the confines of the monies that we earn through FTE is about the students we teach, which is exactly where I started our discussion this evening. I said we're about the students. So the students drive this as well. And so when we evaluate not just the money we earn through FTE, and we evaluate our projections of third calc, and we're projecting with respect to the board policies of the fund balance. And then that's what we have to offer. And then the last part of your question was, does it help with teacher recruiting? I think it was, or
Does
teacher,
your proposal, what you put here on the table,
the 21
does it
million.
begin to address the staffing shortages happening in teachers, paras, clinicians, secretaries? Does it begin to address that issue? Because our position is no. Your proposals don't begin to address that problem. You have a huge problem. You're turning Polk County into nothing more than a training ground for Hillsborough. That's what you're doing. That's all you're doing.
So to answer your question,
Okay.
I respect what I heard from the community in this room tonight, but I'm going to say to you that yes, it is. And I'm going to tell you that there is a group of people out there beyond this room as well that are serving as teachers, paras, and secretaries that are also sharing on another note that they want their 4%. They're ready to go. And they think that it is enough.
Okay.
So,
They beat
with
me to
that
the
being
question.
said, so that's where I'll leave the response to your question.
We'll caucus now.
Thank
We
you.
will caucus.
You want to put us the time?
Good thing I'm.
We'll check in
Sure, I get it.
25 minutes?
Oh,
So, like 6:50, is that what?
yeah.
Let's do 6:50. Hold on. You guys stay. They're leaving just for caucus.
Well, you don't have to say it that way.
6:50.
Yeah.
Thor, can you check if I'm live still? Or was live? I don't know what's going on. I feel so bad that I'm dropping some of this.
You're good. All right. With the lunches, we are to accept the teacher 6 with lunches. This language needs to be mirrored in para contract in Article 8. So whether you want to prepare that or you would like me to prepare that, I'm okay with either.
We'll prepare it and then we'll send it. We're talking about later away
Yeah.
from the table or tonight.
Or when we come back, because we're not gonna be completely done tonight.
And discuss about the lunches, the Article 8. I just want to make sure we're talking about, that was the piece where we would make sure they had the 30-minute provision. and it was
Yes, because right
22
now
minutes.
the para contract reads at least 20 minutes.
Okay, all right.
And so we want to make sure that it's mirrored with what we're agreeing to tonight, and the teacher, that the paras also are getting the same language in the lunch area.
Got it.
Yes.
Do you have like Article 8.1 or is it just Article 8? I
In
want to make sure we
the-
get it right.
In the,
It's probably in
Yeah.
a citation, I think.
in the para contract.
Bring it up real quick too. 'Cause I don't want to promise something to you and miss it. Article 6 will be just as we presented. Article 8 will be
Yes.
the new that we need to send up.
Para Article 8, yes. It- Yep, thank you.
8.4.
Yep.
All right, thanks, everybody. To be clear, we will work on that language
Okay.
and we will submit it electronically over to you.
Okay.
Eva, you got the minutes too.
I wrote on my teacher. Do you have another clean copy of the teacher?
Eva. All right.
Yes.
Do you want to start your teacher 6?
Good. Well, pages.
Yes, at least you only have to initial.
All right, so we say tentative agreement.
Tentative agreement,
On page
date,
1, and then we just initial.
full signatures, and then date and
Really?
initials on everything else.
We date and initial every page.
And once there's a date on it, we don't each have to date it. So if you're writing the dates on all the papers, then Jason and Kat do not.
Going back to 8.42, we'll just mirror the same, we'll copy the same language, drop it in, should be the same, right?
Yep. 8.4 where it says at least 20, we need to have the same language that was in 6. And this is right.
We'll look at this chart. What we just did was we're gonna get you Article 8 terms of employment. That's what we're talking about there.
Mhm.
And then we took care of the 6 teaching conditions. That was the TA we just did.
Mhm. Yep. And then you are going to bring so this, we'll keep this. copy.
8.42.
It's right here. I brought the folder for the TA, but I don't want it to get mixed in here. And then so management's gonna bring Article 8 with the mirrored language to Article 6 in the teacher.
Yes. You want this? Yes, thank you. So we both have a copy completing that process. So,
So what we would also like to do with unpaid leaves.
Okay.
And this is all together. I'm not sure if you have your copies from last time. We are countering with our language from November 20th. And you can see that.
Right. Give me just a second. Do we have the, let me find the original. So yours, this is teacher, Carol, ESP.
Because there's only changes on page 1. So we only printed
teacher,
page 1.
Article 21.2. Should there be any combination? Should there be any combination of medical leave to personal leave or to medical leave? So within a school year, the position will only be held for the initial 12 week period after the first approved leave. Right. The only difference is it breaks between school years. You don't walk across school years. All the ones.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the pairs and ESPs don't have personal leave in their contract.
So the position will be held for the initial 12 weeks before the next week's any type of employment within any school year. Okay. Is within a school year. That's the main kicker. It's within a school year. That goes across.
Well, she's already seen this language. And what I heard say when we were going through unpaid leaves is that you were actually okay with our proposal on its own.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and go with it, that I like the across the following school year for reasons, but, this we'll go with this.
Okay. Do you have,
So-
in your binder, do you have clean copies?
And so can I be like really detailed for the record? Wilfredo, I believe, will appreciate this. Because I want it to reflect this is P accountable in 20,
Yes,
that was rejected. So
And
this
we're
becomes a new
and we're
proposal,
recountering.
like with tonight's date on it.
yes, yes.
So if we could
We
get
can
that
add
on it
Tuesday.
and do that, then we keep the record straight.
I will add it.
I thought you would appreciate it.
What are you looking for, please, Stephanie?
So the 11/20 teacher para ESP unpaid leaves. If you guys have a clean copy for them, we can do it online here.
You know what? We can handwrite that.
Yeah.
In there.
I'm gonna say district counter 2525 reject, and then PEA counter 2525 re
You sure to be back on the phone?
propose 11.
This is one.
This is work.
Yes. So that's how I wrote it, just so you can see it. I'll have you look at it too. Yeah. So what I wrote. District
Here, you want it again?
counter. Well, I'm just doing it on this, so we
Yeah,
have two
but
clean
so it's
copies.
the same? You're gonna just write it the same and then.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I knew it.
I think I started right.
I'll finish it. Actually, because these are different articles, I'm gonna sign all of them.
I'm doing the same as their standalones.
Yeah.
And I want to also clarify if these notes we need to carry over and what the record reflects.
Yep.
I think what I'm gonna do is go back to your remarks and put the articles that it's specific to. Can you
Yeah.
do that?
That's okay.
Then we can just do it on the cover.
Yep. So I'll add in ESP Article 11 and para
So
Article
the
7.
district counter reject is just, we'll leave that as it
Yeah.
is, but the PEA counter, we're gonna
And so
leave
this
that
is
for,
for
I'm gonna put, teacher 21.2.
teacher 21.2. Para 7.2
7.2.
and ESP. It's 11.2, I think.
Yes, yes.
Just,
Our count
Excuse me?
for signatures.
Yes. It's one of them. I'll be back. My original single page.
Okay,
So
so
this is
we
already-
both have a copy of.
Yep. Um.
If you give me a second.
mhm.
Here. All right, so what we just did there was. That was unpaid leaves that we just did. So we took care of Article 7. And we took care of Article 11,
ESP 11, para 7, and
And-
teacher 21,
teacher 21. Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's a TA,
and teacher 6.
TA. And TA. Got it,
Now, we don't have the ability to print here,
correct.
but in Article 3, teacher, we are going to counter verbally. We don't
Okay.
have it written out on paper. With the 10 early dismissal days, we would like 8. We are counting with 8 of those to be teacher self-directed plan time.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send you 8.42. Can you send me that in writing?
Mhm.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
I'm not committing to agreement on it. I
Okay.
want to review it in writing and
Okay.
review with my team.
Okay.
Let me make a note. You're gonna send me well, we don't have, Article 3 calendar teacher.
Mhm.
So you're gonna send me 3 point. What is it?
It would, well, I'll just send the whole article, so it's
Okay.
a page, the whole article's one page.
Got it.
It's only 3.1 through 3.4.
PEA will send counter.
Yep.
All right. And that one is like a proposal list for our review.
Mhm.
So I'll get back with you. Or we'll get back to the table on that.
Well, and I guess in this discussion with Article 8 with CDATs, having them under those teacher self-directed plan time, because in CDATs, who are teachers, they're pre-K teachers, they don't have protected self-directed plan time, and so we would want to, if teachers are getting that, we want to make sure our CDATs are receiving that extra planning time as well. So, but that would reside.
And you're gonna give me that in your.
So I can prepare both. You were gonna prepare Article 8
Let's
with,
do an 8.42.
I can do that both if you would like,
Put them all together.
yeah.
You good with that? Okay. And then we'll have you submit an Article 8, have 8.42 plus the CDAT.
Plus the
language.
CDAT with the early dismissal days.
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
So I'm gonna make a remark here.
so then I will be responsible for. Um,
And we will continue to discuss those 2 separate article proposals, right?
Mhm.
So we don't get hung up on it.
Yeah. Um. So and that leaves salaries, and we have heard your position over 6 months of bargaining. We will be bringing a counter. We reject your proposal. We will be bringing a salary counter.
Okay.
We need a few things that I'll be formally putting in a request for tomorrow, but just so you're aware.
Okay.
We need it anyway, because we asked for it this time of year anyway. We want a full who's employed now, because the data we're working off of is from last year. It shouldn't change drastically, but we would like new data to cost out. And I'll send that tomorrow. We would also like to put in the room that we're still, when we calculate 4%, we calculate based on the numbers we got in the spring, 26 million if you don't include 47.5, the base salary, or any of the base salaries, or 28 million if you do include the base salaries. So I think that it might be appropriate for a small committee to get together and look at it. Because I am not confident. I don't think anybody in this room is confident that we're talking the same numbers. And so I would feel comfortable, and I think everybody in this room would feel comfortable if we can look at actual people that are here right now and we can sit down and cost this out, because I am my math skills, and then I'm not doing some fraud, but I don't think we're working with the same
There are
numbers.
hidden lines in your spreadsheet and there are errors and
Well,
we'll be
then
happy to.
we
go
would
over
love
that
to
with
sit
you.
down, because I also think, and I haven't seen a spreadsheet to cost out for you guys, but I also think that there's errors in your numbers. So I think coming together and looking at that would be very helpful at this point. And it still does not. We have over 200 vacancies. The substitutes are increasing. We asked for that data. We're almost at 700 subs now. This is not sustainable. It's not. And we also know that when you're floating vacancies and you're paying substitutes to do the work of a teacher, that you are also saving money in those instructional line items. And that's just math. If you're not paying a full teacher salary at all because there's a vacancy, or paying partial salary because they're a substitute. And I know that there's differences in subs. There are some that are just waiting for certification and reciprocity from other states, but that's really not the vast majority of subs. And we're trying to get subs that are close to credentialed or in other states to come over, and so that they are on the teacher side, but that's not the vast majority of the 700 close to of what we're looking at now. So if we really are student-centered, we have to be thinking about those kids that come to school every day that are in front of no teacher or a sub, or because there is no teacher, now they have 40 kids in a classroom, which is also untenable and it's not sustainable. And so our position has been maintained that we have to do something drastic because the facts are the facts. And to Wilfredo's point, Polk is becoming a training ground so that they can get a few years under their belt and then they can go hop over to other places in Central Florida and make more money. And while the profession that I love is a labor of love and we are mission-driven people, we have to feed our families. And so you have employees right now that are making very hard decisions to leave the school they love, to leave the students they love, because they cannot feed their families. And so that has to be addressed. That has to. And we need our employer, our school board, who is accountable to the taxpayers of this county, just like I am. You know, I'm a taxpayer. I'm not just a teacher, I'm a taxpayer. They have a responsibility to the community to ensure that they are putting as much money as possible into salaries to just not only recruit people, but to retain them. And this is a crisis. And it's going to continue to grow if this board, because Brian, the contract's not between me and you. Our contract's between the union and the school board. The school board is the one that ultimately ratifies on their side, not Mr. Hyde, not Mr. Pitts, not Mr. Davis, not you, the school board does. So our employer has to come to grips that they're going to have to, instead of reorging $5 million of district office, that 5 million should come down to the people who are in front of children every day. And while positions at district office have their function, they are not the ones in front of kids every to do these. I wouldn't say settle, because you really only settle with the bus drivers because they're the only ones that have a union right now. Everybody else was told this is what they were getting and had no say in it. And so 70% of your employees who are in schools every day supporting children of all varying degrees, all varying exceptionalities, to make sure that they have a quality education. And so this is not us trying to bankrupt you. We are trying to live so that we can continue to do the job that we love.
Right. And a few things I want to say back to some of the remarks you made. I hear what you're saying about the reorg and the money spent, but what is more, we have dire needs there as well. It's some of all of the employees have questions regarding salary, regarding needs of risk management or otherwise. We've got employees to serve, and so it takes more people to do that. I also want to say that we do value teacher retention, and we don't want to be the training ground for the districts. That's why a teacher retention goal is part of the district strategic plan. And a review of that data reveals that we, in fact, are tracking our new teachers and those cohorts and the like that we're tracking through professional development and through recruitment on our side demonstrate that we're showing a 91% retention rate for those folks. So we may be losing some, but it may be isolated in small pockets, but we don't see droves of people coming out of our system when we run the reports. And the last thing I want to offer to you with respect to the bus drivers being the only group or union that we bargained with, that would actually not be accurate, because the other groups are still waiting for information from PERC for them to absolutely be decertified. So to this point, we haven't received that information from PERC. So we did treat them as a union for that regard before we received the certification from PERC in that regard. So that's all.
We would like to look at next week.
We can do this like we've done before. Let's get a couple dates out there because we have multiple pieces to check in that regard, to get our rooms and otherwise. So. And as we look at next week, what are you looking at?
Tuesday, the 11th.
That's work session day. I would
We were saying
like to
5:30
for another day.
Monday, the 10th.
I'm going to say this too. We also have a 3 o'clock that day as well. Yeah, I know that's a busy day. So what was your other option?
Monday, the 10th. You said Monday, the 12th.
So I've heard the 10th, I've heard the 11th.
So the 10th or the 11th, and I know we have a 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
We can move that
Yeah,
earlier if we
time
need to,
certain or
or a time certain.
reschedule. Yeah. I don't want to reschedule because the people who've invited to come. So.
Monday, the 17th, or that is President's Day. We are
Yeah,
not
prefer
here.
not to do it that day. Okay.
And Wednesday, the 19th.
Okay, I got 10, 11, and the 19th. 10, 11, 19. All right. And we will look for that same window of like 3 hours, like 5 to 8, when we can do it. So let us do a review and we'll get back with you on that. Okay. All right. And then if I can recap.
We might, hold on.
Yeah.
We might need,
You got one more?
in the 18th, we can look at the 18th.
All right. Can I just recap for you and me what we're expecting between the two of us and what we're going to exchange? So Article 8, you're going to give me 8.42, which should be easy because that's the one we agree on.
Yeah.
You're also going to throw in there the CDAT language that ties over to the calendar discussion that you're going to send over for the
8 early
days,
dismissals
yeah,
out of the 10.
which will be its own counter from you to us that we'll review and get back with you on. We've TA'd unpaid leave, Article 11 for ESPs. We've TA'd Article 7 unpaid leaves. We've TA'd Article 6 teaching conditions and Article 21 unpaid leaves. You're gonna do a data request for who's employed to date.
Mhm.
We're gonna try to get
I will send that over to you.
Heather had offered that we get it together. So. Yeah.
Yep.
That's it. Then we're ready to come offline and conclude our meeting.
All right.
Thank you.